Hi, my name is Brent Gairy, and we're starting at episode one of my to be determined podcast name. But I definitely want to jump into some things that I've run across with a number of clients, being branding. There's a lot of misconceptions about what branding is, what it isn't, and there's a quote I want to say came from Jeff Bezos. Branding is the thing that people say about you when you're not around, when you can't hear it. And it's really perception. Now, there's a lot of conflation between branding, which is the perception, versus the brand identity. What would be your logo, your colors, right? It is foundational. You need a brand identity, but you can have a brand even before you have a logo. Now, in this episode, I want to touch base more on the brand identity because typically, if you, let's say, are active on social media, you have, maybe a following already, you have a brand, but you may not have the visual identity that will help set your brand apart from others that are maybe do something similar to you. And that matters. To give you a little bit of backstory, there was a woman who went by the name Six Figure Chick, and she did digital marketing, African American woman, and was very successful at it, had a large following. Now, at one point, my wife was looking for this, to buy a course, and we went online and we couldn't really find it because there were a lot of people calling themselves Six Figure Chick. We can tell by the brand, colors and whatnot. Eventually, after a lot of searching, we did find her, but unfortunately, she passed away months before. And I think, a lot of people are maybe trying to capitalize on that Six Figure Chick name. And it just kind of went to show that not having that strong brand identity, if you think about like the most famous brands out there, you will never confuse, a Coca Cola versus Dr. Pepper or Nike, Reebok, Apple, Microsoft. Everything is, those identities are unique and memorable. And that's something, as a person that's running, a nonprofit, you want to think about though is, am I standing out visually from the marketplace, from those that I'm competing with or maybe even working with? So with that said, you want to have, strong brand identity, and because that's going to be the foundation of the other elements that you're going to be building on. So for example, start with your logo, right? Maybe your logo is just all words, or it can be, visual. If you think Starbucks, it's a very visual logo. You start with that. You have your colors, you have your font. You also want to start thinking about what are every touch point your organization is going to be encountered. If you think online, if I go on LinkedIn, do you have a LinkedIn banner? If you go on Instagram, do you have, Instagram icon, stories template? You know, you have even your Google Doc, would need a nice header and footer to stay branded, because any touch point that you have or sharing may be the first indication, or the first time basically someone comes across your brand, and you really have a few seconds to make that impact, whether it is it's positive or negative. And this is why having a brand identity is so key, because as marketing gets more and more complicated and more expansive, there's just more and more places that your brand will be encountered for the first time. Now, a mistake I think a lot of people think about as well. Okay, I have my logo. I'll just throw the logo on every piece of stationery or digital piece that I have. But you have to adapt your brand identity for different scenarios. For example, your logo may be perfectly fine on a white background, but what happens if you have to put it on a photo, right? Is it gonna still stand out, or is it gonna clash? You don't want to have, let's say you have a white website, a black logo works fine. But what happens if you have, a brochure that has dark lettering? What happens if you have to give your logo out to another company because maybe you're doing a sponsorship for an event, right? If your logo doesn't have the flexibility to work on different types of background, you don't have proper rules, you end up with a logo that may look really bad at an event. It doesn't matter if the event is prestigious or not. If your logo doesn't work, that is now what people associate your brand with. So, some things to keep in mind. And having said all of that, well, how do you get the logo created? How do you get your brand identity set up? And one of the things you can do, um, there are places like Canva, for example, that you can get a brand kit relatively cheap. Right? There are lots of websites. Let's say even Creative Market is a good place that you can actually pay $20, $30, buy a branding board template, and you can mix and match. You can create your logo, create your colors, all those touch points I was talking about. You may have for social media, for your PowerPoint presentation, etc. That's one approach. Um, Downside is that you kind of get what you pay for, and the options are overwhelming because a lot of them look the same, just minor differences. And you can spend more time just buying templates and playing around with things before you can actually commit to something. Right. The other option is that you can go on a place like Fiverr, get a designer to design your logo, and it can be very hit or miss. Um, there are great designers on there, and there are a lot of bad ones, and there are a lot of mediocre ones. And you want to think about what's their process like. How many are they responsive? Do they build only the same type of logo over and over? Um, so those are some things that you kind of have to worry about in a place like Fiverr. You could look for a local designer. Hopefully, they have you can get maybe a recommendation, and then you also have agencies, marketing agencies that you can use, but the price is going to be higher. So logos and brand identity can start anywhere from $29, 15. Well, actually $15 on a Creative Market or Etsy. I know a person that charges $2,000 for the logo, but they're amazing. But if you're just starting out, is it worth it? That it depends, right? Now, personally, with me and my team, we're for we don't just do a logo. We're going to do that brand identity kit. We're going to give you a questionnaire to learn about your business, learn about your aesthetic preferences, and really do an interview to understand the the what thoughts are in your head. Because a lot of times it's hard for a non-designer to articulate a design verbally to someone else. So we take the time to learn, understand what are the guardrails, what do you like, and also what you don't like in terms of colors, fonts, etc. Then we look at some references that you give us. It doesn't have to be logos. It can just be brands that you like, things that photographs, etc. And we'll then start doing homework. We'll start to come up with a few concepts and share those concepts, and then usually we can refine. But that process takes time, right? It took a couple of weeks. But once we have that process done, we can now start to apply it to, okay, well, what social media channels are you going to be working on? Instagram, maybe TikTok. We'll design some branded elements for those platforms. We'll do a presentation deck, right, with your colors, with your imagery, as well as the logo. Then things like Google Doc template, right? And So we'll build on top of it. So then we can start to think about your website, right? Because once you have that brand identity, that's your keystone. You can then begin to work outward and upwards. So brand identities, it's it's an amazing. I love working on it. It's challenging, but having a brand identity that resonates with your target audience, with potential investors, your partners, any competition, just makes it easier for you to not focus on creating a compelling message, because when you share it, it's going to be consistent. And like it or not, people are very savvy. They may not understand the aesthetic considerations, but people know good design, even if they can't. They don't know why it's good. Um, and a strong brand identity signals professionalism, good taste, right? A person that's willing to invest, right, in things that are important to them. It's the same rationale you get when you see a gentleman wearing a fancy tailored suit versus someone that just might be wearing trainers, socks, and slippers. Could be the same individual, has no realistic bearing on their career or what they're doing in life, but that first impression, you're always going to take that tailored gentleman more seriously than the kind of randomly put together individual that's just wearing the track pants and socks and slippers. So next time, we're going to talk a little bit more in terms of like websites, platforms that you want to, and do you even need a website, in 2024? Thanks.